Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today? Good. Tired? So, my plan for today is to finish chapter 6. We don't have much stuff left, only a few topics. So, we are going to do that. And then next week, Tuesday, we are going to start chapter 7. And we'll do a little bit of chapter 7. And Thursday, we're going to do a review. And your exam 3 will be on Friday. Nope, 21. I told you yesterday, did you forget? I'm moving the exam date from next Tuesday to next week, Friday. And that's why we're going to have a review session this time, even though you don't have much time. But I'm nice enough to hold the review session. Any question from anyone before you start? Any comments, concern, complaint? Okay, then let's start. What is this? Windows updates, maybe later. So we started learning factoring first. We learned how to factor 2 times, how to factor 3 times, how to factor 4 times, and then we started the factoring method. So when we have two factors, either we have DCF or perfect squares to work with. So we factored them, we set each factor equals 0, we solve for the variable. When you have 3 terms, we still have to factor, but we have 3 choices. Either you can do direct factoring. If your A is invisible, we do AC method if your A is visible, like the right page, or you use trial and guess method if your numbers are too big to work with. So you have 3 choices for now to factor and to solve. And when you have 4 factors, then we have, so when you have 4 terms, then either we have GCF or grouping methods. And it doesn't matter what you do, whenever you factor, your first step always should be looking for any GCF. If you have any GCF, factor that out and then go for the other method after that. Any question? Now, when you solve, there is one condition. We cannot solve anything until we have 0 in one side. That's the most important condition to solve something. So what's wrong with the 2 equations I have here? Is there anything wrong with the 2 equations I have? We don't have 0 on one side. So step 1 should be do something so you can see 0 on one side. So let's do the left page first. What can you do to see the 0 on one side? Multiplying by 2, how are you going to get 0 from there? If you multiply by 0, everything becomes 0. You know what? Everything becomes 0, right? We want that 72, not on the other side. So you subtract 72 from both sides. And that's how we have a nice quadratic equation on the left and 0 on the right. And now we are happy. We are happy because we have 0. So we go to the next step. What is our next step? If you want to solve for x. When you see a quadratic equation, what comes in your mind? Factoring. So can we factor this nice quadratic equation? two numbers multiply to 72, combine to 1. Can you think of the two numbers? 72 times 1 is 72, but when you add them or subtract them, you don't get 1. 8 and 9. So 9 times 8 is 72. 9 minus 8 is 1. But how about the signs? 9 has to be minus because of the middle sign. Middle sign always goes to the bigger factor. That means 8 has to have what sign? Positive. Any questions so far? Leandro? No. So this is our next step. The middle sign always goes to the bigger number, the bigger factor. Each factor. So remember yesterday I said when the product of factors equals 0, that means one of them is 0. That's why when you multiply them, the result is 0. But we don't know which one is 0. So we said, well, the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. One of these factors definitely has to be 0 because their product is 0. And then we want to see for each factor what makes them 0. So for the first factor, we add the 9. And for the second factor, what do? Subtract the 8. So if our x is 9 or if our x is negative 8, this result has to be 0. So we have two answers. Any questions so far? Leandra?
Do you have that last part? The x minus 9 equals 0
or people start forgetting them. People actually start forgetting them writing or. We used to write or all the time, but now people don't.
No, not the or part. I'm saying like that step is critical, right?
Of course, these are your solution.
Because x minus 9 is not the final answer. That's what I mean.
No.
Oh.
X minus 9 is a factor, but you're solving. Solving means get the x alone. So these two are actually the x-intercepts. Intercepts. Not always. For example, let's say you have a question like this. X squared equals 0. Then what is x? X is 0. So we have only one solution. Actually, it's an interesting question. So when I first was in for an interview to become an instructor, they asked me this question. So they gave me a quadratic equation to solve. So and told me that, well, explain this to me. So like how you're going to explain it to your students. So I did all these things. Well, we have a quadratic equation. We want to see 0. So we bring them into one side. And in factor, we set them equal 0. And make sure you have two solutions. Because when you have power 2, we suppose you have two solutions. And then the interviewer, he was one of the professors, like, are you sure every time you have x squared, you're solving a quadratic, you always have two solutions? I was like, yeah, of course. When you solve 2 power, you're supposed to have two solutions. When you solve 3 power, you're supposed to have 3 solutions. He said, are you sure? I was like, yeah. And then he has to solve this one. I was like, oh man. I wasn't hired at the time. Probably he saw me making such silly mistakes, and I was like, oh no, I don't want my students to have learned those type of wrong mistakes, wrong things. Then I was giving interview next year, and then I was hired by another instructor. But anyway, so there are some questions. They always remind me of my interviews, which was in 2018 something or something like that. Okay, anyway, good question. Any other question?
It's always the opposite sign.
So if you want to see visually what is happening here, we have a parabola upward because our x-y is positive, and we have two x-intercepts. One is -9, sorry, +8, and the other one is -9.
You want to like show that part?
No, you need to show it in chapter 11, not in chapter 6.
But we can just put like, just be good for next one.
You're done. But I'm showing you in advance what this means. We are going to learn in details in chapter 11. What are these? Any other question? No? Okay, the next one. What is wrong with the next question? The first wrong thing is what? We don't have a 0. So what to do to have a 0? Minus. We subtract 20. So we get 3x squared plus 7x minus 20 equals 0. And then what to do? Factor. Good. We need to do factoring. But by which method? Like this one directly or other methods? We cannot factor 3 because 7 is not divisible by 3 or 20 is not divisible by 3. Trial? You want to try trial? You can, no problem. Would you like to try trial?
Which one is the
AC. So trial is for bigger numbers. 20 is not that big, right? 3 is also not that big. It's doable. So if you have some number that is doable, use your brain, use AC method. Trial is for bigger number, like we have to trial and guess which number going to work. But for AC, it's fine. So we cannot factor directly. So you go to the AC and say, hey, AC, tell us what two factors you have. So multiply A and C, we get 3 and -20. What is C times -20? -60. What do we do with this -60? Two numbers multiplied to that, combined to the middle one. Can you think of the two numbers? If you cannot, it's okay. You have to keep trying. 1 times 60, 2 times 30. So let's do that actually. 1 and 60. Do you get 7 from these? 2 goes to 60 how many times? 30. Do you get 7 from here? 3 goes to 60? 20. Do you get 7 from them? 4 goes to 60? 15. Do you get 7 from 15 and 4? 5 goes to 60? 12. Can you get 7 from 5 and 12? Yes. So if you don't know what to factors, keep trying them until you get what you want. But if you see your factors, your life is easy. So we have 5 and 12, but you need to decide their signs. Leandro. Huh?
After we get back, then I'll be rewrite it,
So we have 12x and 3x. But how about the signs? 12 has to be plus because the middle sign is plus. That means 3 has to have what sign? Minus. So in a 3, it's 5. My bad. So 12 is plus, 5 is minus. It's because when you combine them, you have to get positive 7, not negative 7. We still need this. So 3x squared and minus 20. How do you factor 4 terms? Grouping. So one group, two groups. What do you? So 8 times 3 is 60. If you use normal IC method, you keep the first term, keep the last term, and break down the middle term. If you use weird IC method, then the 20 becomes negative 60.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So this is not weird method. This is normal method, like normal people do, like us. So what do you see in the first group? 3x. When you factor that out, what is left? X plus 4. And what do you observe about the second group? It has to be negative. Leandra. We got x plus 4. Remember, anytime you polynomial start with negative, anytime, you don't like that negative. Think about your life. Would you like to start your deal with something negative? Of course not. Same thing, polynomial doesn't want to have a negative in the front. So you have to factor that out. And we still have our two factors. So what do you see in both factors? X plus 4. So what remains in both factors? So both groups? Three x and minus 5. So we brought everything to one side. We use SE method to factor. And then what do you do? No form. What is our next step? Solve for x, but how? Set each of them individually to be 0. It's because we know that product 0 means one of them definitely is 0. Which one? We don't know. So what do you get from the first factor? What is the x value? Negative 4. So I'm skipping a step. And can you do this mentally, the next one? You add 5 and then you divide it by 3. You don't have to do this mentally, but I don't space, so I'm doing it mentally. So step 1, you add 5 to both sides. Step 2, you divide 3 by both sides. So that's how you get 5 over 3. My 5 looks weird. Let me rewrite. It's a nice little 5. Any question?
The phrasing of this problem will it say like find a solution to a problem?
So anytime you see solve, it means get to x alone. But when you see factor, you go and factor and then you are done. Because all you need is the factors, that's it. So factoring means after factoring you stop. Solving means after factor, you set each factor equals 0 so that you can solve for x.
But it's in the question.
Any other question? For the next one, let me. You're not allowed to use calculator. For the next question, $1 million question. Can I write this as this? X minus 3 equals 5 or X plus 1 equals 5? Am I allowed to do so? Why not? Not because of the parentheses. The answer is no, correct? But why? When two things equals 5, does it mean individually they equals 5? For example, we know 1 times 5 is 5, right? Does that mean 1 equals 5? Is it? Is 1 and 5 same? No. So this doesn't make sense. We can only separate them when the product is 0. Because we know in real life, when you multiply something and get the answer 0, one of them definitely has to be 0. For example, if you multiply 2 with 0, the answer is 0. If you multiply 3 with 0, the answer is 0. If you multiply 100 with 0, the answer is 0. What do you observe? In order to get 0 as a solution, one of the factor has to be 0. That's why for 0, we can split them. So for numbers, we can see that one of them is 0. For variable, we have no idea which one is 0. The first one or the second? Which one? We don't know. So that's why we say, well, maybe the first one is 0, or maybe the second one is 0. We don't know. For number, we don't do that because you can see them clearly. So main idea, no, we cannot set each of them to be a number because it doesn't make sense. Then what do you do? If we cannot set them equal to 5, what else we can do? Distribute. Good job. Did you say? I didn't hear anything.
I said parentheses on first that 0, but I guess.
No, the reason is because 5 is not 0. So distribute. And what do you have? Then plus 1x minus 3x. And then the last one is minus 3 equals 5. Do we have any like terms to combine? So what do we get? Negative 2x. And anytime the direction is solved, okay? So anytime you're solving something, what do you want to see on one side? 0. Do you have 0 on one side? So what can you do to have the 0? Add minus 5. So we are happy we have 0 here. And what do you have from the numbers? Negative 8. Let me rewrite a little bit lower. We have x squared minus 2x minus 8. Any questions so far? So what type of equation we have? Quadratic. It's trinomial, true, but the name of the equation is quadratic. And we love quadratic. Why? No, because we can solve quadratic easily. But how? How do you solve quadratic? What method we use?
The quadratic method.
No, I said, how can you solve quadratic equation?
Yeah.
Why don't you make your life hard?
Or you can do like
Factoring. Anytime you solve quadratics, your first step should be if it's factorable. Because if it is factorable, you're like this. Is it factorable? Can you think of two numbers? Multiply to -8, combine to -2. -4, and what's the 2? Sign for the 2? +2. See how easy our life is? -4 times 2 is -8, -4 plus 2 is -2. Ta-da, it's factorable. So we distributed, we brought 5 from right to the left, we factored, and we are done with factoring. Now we go for solving. How do you solve? Set each of them individually to be 0. So that the first one is 0. One of them definitely is 0. That's why the result is 0. We don't have to use quadratic formula. Quadratic formula we use when it's not factorable. So what is x in the first one? +4. And the second one? Good, -2. Again, I'm doing everything mentally, but you don't have to do mentally. It can show you what. Especially if you know you always make mistake of forget to changing the sign, definitely show you what.
I have a question. I was just here yesterday, but I was watching a YouTube video, and when you are equaling to 0, is that also like the equation method, or
no? Equality 0, you'll do that anytime you're solving for something. So easy AC method is when you don't want to use this grouping method. So in the easy AC method, what we do, we don't group them. We simply rewrite and then go to this vector directly. So we skip steps. That's why it's called easy AC method. But there is a downside. Once you put your coefficient back, you have to take it out as a common factor and ignore what we actually not possible, what is not possible in real life. In real life, when you factor out something, you keep it, right? But in easy AC method, you completely ignore that, which is unrealistic. Any other question? So remember, factoring means you just factor, you stop. But solving, solve for x, solving means once you factor, you set each factor to be 0, and then you solve for x. Any other question? Okay, you're going to the last section of chapter 6. So next week on Tuesday, you have the entire chapter 6 homework and quizzes to do. 6.7 talks about application of quadratic. We learn how to factor quadratic. We also learn how to solve quadratic. Now, when do we use them in real life? Why do we care about quadratic? That's the fun part. Why do we care? Why did we learn all these things? Well, we learn them to make our life easier. So how do you make our life easier? Anytime you have some type of scenario where you know that the scenario represents quadratic, these are the steps you can follow to solve your problem easily. First, you read and understand the problem. That's the main thing always for any type of solving application. You read, you read it, you read it. Okay? You read until you understand what's going on. Once you understand what's going on, you go and identify what they did not give you, what you're looking for, and what they did give you. What information you have and what information you don't have. Whatever you don't have, assign a variable for that. And whatever you do have the information, connect your unknown with the information you have. So make a connection. So we convert the entire sentence into a mathematical expression. Once you have your expression, our goal is to solve. So here is factorable. You factor and you solve individually. just like we did the last 3 examples. You factor and you solve. Once you solve, since these questions are real life, so you look at the real life scenario. Does it make sense in real life? For example, let's say they give you a triangle to solve. You have a nice triangle where the lengths are unknown. So you do your math and you found that, well, one side of the triangle give you a positive result and another variable give you a negative result. Can you accept both solution for a triangle? We cannot, because our length of triangle or length of anything in real life, can that ever be negative? Do you have a negative 2-meter table or negative 5 feet tall person? Is it possible to have them in real life? No. So anytime you see something that doesn't make sense in real life, it disregards the solution. And this is what the last one is saying. Makes sense with the original equation of the real life. Does it make sense? If something doesn't make sense, disregard. Whatever does make sense, that's your answer. Question? Okay. Now let's do something like a puzzle. Interesting question. It's saying if you have a number and you add its square with that, the answer is 169. What that number could be, or numbers could be. You have one number and you are adding its square with that number, and the result is 169. What are the 2 numbers, or what that number be? It could be one number, it could be 2 numbers. Interesting question, right? You have a number and you're adding its square with that, and you found the sum is 169. So what is the number? What is that number? Fun question, right? 169 is too big, right? Let me give you something easier. A number and its square gives you 6. What that number is? You have one number and you're adding its square with that, and the result is the sum is 6. 2. So that number is 2 because you add 2 squared is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. See? This is what they're asking. There is a number. If you add its square with that, the result is 169. Can you think of that number? Sorry, 156. See, we don't know the answer on top of our head, right? Math says, don't worry. I'm going to show you a method where you can find all the answers you need. So we convert this problem into mathematical equation. Let's say the number we don't know, something unknown, is x. And you're adding its square with that. The sum gives us how much? 156. Can you solve this? Definitely we can, right? Because we did so many examples. What type of equation is this? We are going to rewrite them, but what I did was I rewrote the sentence. It says sum of a number, this number, plus its square. So one number and its square, same number. The number plus its square, the result is 156. So what type of equation is this? Quadratic. Anytime you have the highest degree 2, the name is quadratic. But it's not in order, right? So we have 2 unhappy things. First thing is on the left side, it's not on order. And what's wrong with the right side? It's not 0. So how do you solve these two problems? We subtract 156. We subtract 156 from right to the left, and then we just reorder them. So we get x squared plus x minus 156 equals 0. And now we are very happy. We got a nice quadratic equation. We know how to solve quadratic equation, right? So how do you solve? How do you proceed to the next step? You like AC method a lot, but you don't have to use AC method because our is indivisible. But yes, your idea is factoring. Factor. Actually, to be honest, we learned this. I learned this in my country, and when I learned this, we were never taught direct factor. We always had to use AC method, always. So I was too used to the AC method. So after coming to this country, I was like, what they're doing? How did they figure out this two equation, the two factor, without doing any work? Like I found this amazing. And then when I learned the trick, I was like, oh man, how come my country never taught us that? Like our life would have been so much easier with direct factoring. So now I teach everyone the direct factoring and then AC method. Use AC method when it's necessary, otherwise make your life easier. So how can you make your life easier? Two numbers multiply to what? 156. And add up to 1. Can you think of the two numbers? Leander, did you already get the two numbers? 13 and 12. Good. If you don't know, you have to keep trying. 1 to 56. 2, how many times? 3, how many times? 4, how many times? So you keep multiplying, you keep dividing these by 1 to whatever you can get to until you get what you're looking for, the sum to be 1. So we know one of them is 13 and one of them is 12. How about their signs? 13 has to be positive because of the middle sign. That means our 12 has to be negative. And now we are very happy. We factored the polynomial we have, and now we go for solving. How do you start solving? We take each of them and set that equals 0. So we subtract 13 from both sides of the equal sign. We add 12 to both sides of the equal sign. So what is our x? Negative 13 or positive 12. And you can actually check your solution whether they're correct or not. Twelve plus 12 square. What is 12 square? 144. So 12 plus 144. How much you get when you add them?
56.
156. Now negative 13 plus its square. What is negative 13 square? Any idea? 169. When you add them, what do you get? 9 minus 3, 6 minus 1. 156. See? Both of them gave us 156. So both answers are correct. We added one number with the square, 156. One number with the square, 156. So that's how you check. Question. So what you're supposed to do is you need to divide, start dividing. So we have 156. First you divide by 2. 156, 2 goes to 156 how many times? 2 goes to 15 how many times? 7, right? We get 14, we get 1, and we bring down the 6. 2 goes to 16 how many times? 8. 156 is 1 times 156, 2 times 78. Can you divide this by 3?
Yeah.
So 3 goes to 156. 3 goes to 15? 5. And then we bring down our 6. 3 goes to 6? 2. So it's 3 times 52. Then we go to 4. 4 goes to 15? 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. We subtract and we get 36. 4 goes to 36? 9 times. So it's 4 times 39. And then you keep dividing. You can divide by 4. We can divide by 4. We cannot divide by 5. And then you keep seeing until you get, or there is actually easier method. 2 times not 7, 2 times 5, 78. When you see 156, you definitely know it's divisible by what number? 2. Anything else? Also by 3, right? Because 15 and 6 is definitely divisible by 15 and 6. Sorry, divisible by 3. So you go to one of them, any one of them. For example, for my case, I can easily see it's divisible by 3. So if it's divisible by 3, you don't have to break down 3 because 3 is prime. You go and break down 52. When you see 52, what 2 numbers comes in your head? Any number? If no number comes, then you get 2. Because it's even number, right? Every even number is divisible by 2. So 2 goes to 52 how many times? 2 goes to 5 twice. We get 12. So you get 26. 2 is a prime, you stop. And then you break down it 26 more. When you see 26, what 2 numbers comes in your head? 3 and 13, right? And then you stop because both are prime numbers. That means the factors of 156 is these 3 and 13. So let me highlight them. These 3 and 13. If you multiply all of them, the answer is 156. See from here, 3 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 2 is 12. So you have 12 and you have 13. The answer is 1 in the middle. So you get the answer. So this is called prime factorization. You keep break them apart until there is nothing to apart. And then you just play with the numbers. For bigger numbers, yes. But for smaller number, it's not bad. I'll look at all finals and see what they have. Next come a real life scenario. Real life scenario. Oh, let me take that in just a little bit. Today is Brianna Almonte here. Christina. Catherine. Jolene. So Jolene, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 absent, 4 late. That means everything will be counted, all the absences after 4. Govan absent. Madison Field here. Eric. Abraham here. So Abraham, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 absents and 3 late so far. Be careful, okay? Stephanie here. Leandra here. Robert. Katie. Kimelsia here. Maria here. So Maria, you already have your 4 absences. So from now on, every absence you have will be non-excused. Spendis, yeah. Michaela, yeah. Madison Orlando, absent. Angie, here, right? You had absent yesterday, right, Angie? Okay. Mazabin, Melvelis, here. Giselle, here. Finally, you're back on your seat. Finally, you're back on your seat. You're moving around all this time. Mohammed, here. Tahsin, absent. Gavin, here. Brianna, Texas, here. Carla, absent. Yvette, here. Nick, Danielle, absent. And Hassan, absent. So, did you guys understand the scenario? Huh? The very first name is your name. Did you understand the scenario? We have a rectangle. This is the length, this is the width. Okay? So, step 1, assign your variable. So, I'm assigning my variable. Let's say W is the width and LA is the length. Okay? And now we go ahead and read what information we have. They are saying the length is centimeter less than 4 times the width. So we are going to assign mathematical notation on every word we see in this sentence. Length. What is length? L. Is. What is is? Good. Equal. 5 centimeter less. What does that mean? Minus 5. And anytime we subtract 5, we're supposed to write it later, right? So I'm going to write minus 5 later. And then 4 times width. What does that mean? Great. For W. We are assigning W for the width. Stephanie, what?
That's what I said, 4 times L.
True. So see, first assign your variable, then rewrite the information in terms of the variable and mathematical notation. Now is this clear? So this L you see here, the L here, this is same as 4, right? So let me erase this. This side is W and this side is 4W minus 5. Was anything unclear? No, right? Then you go and do the next sentence. Its area is 6 centimeter. So let's write this down. Area is 6 square centimeter. This is square, centimeter square. So area. What is area? Length times width. What is equal. And 6 is 6. Right? So area is 6 means length times width equals 6. So let's start from here. Length times width is 6. But we have a problem here, right? Our equation has 2 variables, length and width. And we still did not learn how to solve equation with 2 variables. We only learn how to solve equation with 1 variable, like x square x number, or t square t number, p square p number, right? Only 1 variable. So can we rewrite one of these in terms of other one so that we have only 1 variable to work with? Can we rewrite L in terms of W, or can we write W in terms of L? Stephanie. L. Your L is 4W minus 5. Right? L is 4W minus 5. We don't want to see L and W together. We want to see only 1 variable. So we are rewriting L using the W. So L disappears, and we have this thing times W equals 6. So basically we substituted L for this expression, just like the substitution method we learned solving system of equation. Now are we happy? Do you see 1 variable or 2 variables this time in the equation? 1. So you're some happy, right? At least a little bit happy. But still we're unhappy because we don't know this format. This format looks weird. What can you do so that this format becomes something familiar? We have to distribute. So when you distribute, what do you have? 4. I did a triangle. 4W second minus 5W equals 6. Now this looks familiar, but we are not happy. Why not? No 0. Without 0, how can you solve anything? So what do? Subtract 6 from both sides. 4W square minus 5W minus 6 equals 0. And now we are very happy, because this is a quadratic equation, and we know how to solve quadratic equation. It's like, finally we see something that you know. Can you factor out anything here? 4 and 6 are even, but 5 is not, right? So GCF, we cannot do that. That means how do you factor? Which method? AC. You can use trial, but if you use trial, there are so many combinations. For 4, you have 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. For 6, it's 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Which of these combination can give you 5? Said many. Not really. Because it's 4, right? Not even 4 in 1. I said if you want to use trial, you have to try so many trials, and then you can come up with the right numbers. So why are you want to waste your energy on trials? What's the easier way? Which method we use? AC. What about 3 and 2? How did it C2 going to work?
3 plus 2 is 5, and 3 times 4 is
It will work. 3 times 2 is. Oh, but you're not looking for 6. You're looking for 24.
24.
Because your A is not 1 anymore. Your A is 4. If you have only W squared, you're looking for 2 numbers, multiply to 6, combine to 5. But your W is not 1. Your A is not 1. It's 4. So you need to multiply A and C and then factor.
For every single one, though, like it has to be the same thing for every.
Same format for every quadratic where your A, the first term, the square term, is not 1. For example, here. Not here, sorry. Here. Here, x squared was 1. We factor directly. Look at the previous ones. Our x squared was 1. We factor directly. But here, our x squared was not alone, it was 3x squared. So what did you do? So anytime your x squared has a number in front of in front of x squared, which is not 1, it's AC method. For now. Later we are going to learn more methods, like quadratic formula or complete the square. But for now, it's AC. Who raised hands? Somebody raised hand. I forgot. Go ahead. So AC is 4 times -6, which is -24. Mm-hmm. -6. Mm-hmm. So you're using AC method. What do you do? We factor, but how? Do you factor directly or do you do something before factoring? Not DCF, groups. They don't have any DCF. 4, 8, 6 even, but 3 is not even. So there is no DCF. Send this what?
Well, I say you split.
Split into groups. And then what do you do? So what do you see in the first group? 4W. What remains? W minus 2. What do you see in the second? 3, but you have to keep the sign from the 3 also. W minus 2. We still have 2 groups. So what do you see in both groups? W minus 2. Who is lost? Tell me why did I lose?
After you found the two numbers.
So first you multiply AC to get the two numbers. When you get the two numbers, you don't write the middle term. You use those two numbers to write the middle term.
And it's the two numbers that are equal to the A times C, not C. Okay.
So when you didn't have A, we had two numbers multiplied to C. But now we have A, the two numbers multiplied to AC, not only C.
I don't know if it's like, why is it not like 4 times W?
W minus what?
Like 4 times W minus
Tell me, 4 parentheses W minus 8.
yeah. Why don't we break down instead of just putting it right base parentheses, like we did the other problem? Because the other problem as that A was by itself, A is one, break it down.
That's what I was showing to Brianna.
But if A
Our W has a number in the front. So W has a number. When you don't have a number, you factor directly. But when you do have a number, it's not that factoring anymore. It's the AC method. So it depends. Now it's a solve. Okay, so are you done? Are we done here? No. So what do you do next? Set each of them to be 0. For W plus 3, 0, that gives us W is, and W here is negative 3/4. Now what is W again? W means what? Width. So in real life, do you have something with a negative width? So does this make sense? We just wasted our time. Because they cannot have a negative width. No, we wasted our time. We can't have negative width. So we disregard the entire solution. And you go for the only one, it does make sense. Yeah. Or you can simply cross them out. We have more problems to do. So we have width is 2 centimeters, but this is find the dimension. Dimension means both width and also length. If you know your width, do you know your length also? What's the length? 4 times the width, and then you subtract 5. It's 5 less than 4 times width. 4 times 2 minus 5. 8 minus 5, which is 3 centimeters. So width is 2 centimeters, and length is 3 centimeters. So it's a tiny triangle. Any question? Look at the direction. Find the. If it says find the length or find the width, you just find that and you stop. But anytime there's a dimension or area or parameter or anything, you have to go all the way to the answer. So how do you feel about this question? Was it okay? Too much?
I feel like setting up your phone.
Setting up the equation definitely is the hardest part of real life scenario. Always. So you have to write down a note on flashcard or somewhere that 2 numbers means DCF or difference of perfect squares. 3 numbers has 3 scenarios. Either we have x squared with no number in the front, it means direct factoring. Or we have x squared with a smaller number in the front, and our c is also a smaller number. Then it's AC method. But if A is big, C is big, and it's a multiple choice question, then trial method. Or you want me to say everything again? So for 3 terms, there are 3 choices, 3 terms. Either you have x squared plus something. So use direct factoring because it's x squared. Then you have small a, and small c. Like smaller number, not too big. Small doesn't mean 1 and 2. It means little bit doable, okay? So if you have this, that means you need to use AC method. Either normal AC method or weird AC method, but you have to use AC method. And then third one, you have a big number in front of x squared, and then your c is also a little bit big. Or if you multiply them, the result becomes big. Anything like, so you're dealing with big numbers. Bigger numbers like 28x squared, blah, 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 15. See, 20 and 15, these are big, right? If you multiply them. So if you deal with something bigger, you use, and if you're lucky, if it's multiple choice, question, then it's trial and guess. No number, life is easy. Small number, AC method. Big numbers, and you're lucky. If you're lucky with multiple choice, go for trial. And if you don't have the multiple choice, and find your factor. That's it. And now you're doing our last question. We have a weird man. He decided to go top of a building, a tall building. So let's say this is the ground. And the building is standing here. And he has some weird idea. He went on the top of the building and decided to throw a ball. So when you throw a ball, did you notice that when you throw a ball, it doesn't go in a straight line. It goes up and then goes down. Did you guys ever notice that? Anytime you throw something like this way, like basketball, when you throw a basketball, it doesn't go straight inside the thingy, right? It makes a curvy path. So when he throws his ball, the ball goes up some point, some height, and then it comes down eventually on the floor, on the ground. This is the reality, right? Anytime you throw something, it goes up, it goes down. So this is the scenario. He's throwing a ball, it's coming down. Now they're saying this h of t is the height of the ball. So after throwing the ball, let's say 1 second, the height of the ball is here. We can calculate that by putting t equals 1. So after 1 second, the height is -5 plus 20 plus 25. After 2 seconds, the ball is here. We can calculate that using this formula. Then after a few seconds, like after every second where the ball is, how high the ball is from the ground, We can calculate that by using this formula. Is this clear? So this h of t they gave us, this is the height of the ball at any time t. It could be after 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 100 seconds. So after t seconds, how high the ball is, this is the h of t. And what is h of t? The entire expression. Now they are saying, well, if you know the height of the ball for every second, can you calculate that after how many seconds? So how long it took for the ball to go up and comes down? This is the scenario. Good. When the ball hits the ground, what's the height of the ball? 0. So they are giving us the information indirectly that this h of t is 0. So they are saying that h of t is -5 t squared plus 20t plus 25. And indirectly, they are telling us that, hey, this height is 0. Find out at what time that height is 0. That's how we come up with the equation. They gave us equation in terms of h of t. We replace that h of t, which is the height, by 0. So what type of equation we have? Quadratic. And what do you observe? We are not happy because we started our day with negativity. So definitely need to get rid of the negative. Anything else you observe? We have a GCF of what? 5. See, all these numbers are divisible by 5. So we can factor out -5. What remains then? You factored your negative, so no more negative. T square and then -4t minus 5 equals 0. Only this has variable, but does -5 has any variable with that? No, right? -5 is just a number. So -5 times our equation. Remember I said yesterday, if your number doesn't have any variable, that number is useless. So -5 is useless here. We don't need any -5. So we want to cancel that. How do you cancel? By dividing by -5. Because -5 times our expression, and this -5 is worthless, useless. It has no use for us. So in order to get rid of that, divide by -5. And our life becomes easier, nice, cool, because we have a wonderful quadratic equation with no problem. And then you can take out 5. You can do that, but I didn't want to waste my time.
No, I did it. That's what
No problem. You can do that.
Right.
And also you don't have to take out -5 as a common factor. You can divide both sides by -5. But I did factoring because previously we had to factor. So if this question was factor, you cannot divide by -5 because you don't have any other side. You must pull out a -5. But anyway, so which method we use? Direct factoring or AC? Direct, because our t square is alone. Multiply to 5, combine to 4. 5 and 1. And positive 1. You know what amazes me? You guys are so great in class in factoring. But what happened to you in the exam? We did so many factoring before the exam. So guess what? Good news. You're going to factor again in the next exam. Next exam will be based on entire chapter 6, including 6.1, 6.2. Entire chapter 6, little bit of chapter 7, and our favorite exponentials. So we have t minus 5, 0, t plus 1, 0. So how much is the t? And what? Do you accept both? Exactly. Did you ever have in your life a negative second? We don't even know what is negative seconds. Time cannot be negative. So to disregard. That means the only solution we have is 5. It means once the weird man throws his ball, after 5 seconds of throwing the ball, it will hit the ground. With this, we have one more question. Just let me show you the setup, okay? And then you can leave. One more question about parameter. I'll think about it. So you have a quadrilateral, you have some type of shape, and they are telling us that the shape has a parameter 35. Parameter. What does parameter mean? The sum of all the sides. So sum of all sides. So they're saying that the sum up to 35, what each side is. Add them. X squared minus 2x plus 2x minus 2 plus x plus 4 plus x plus 9. And when you add all 4 sides, the sum is 35. And as you can already see, our highest degree here is 2. That means we're going to bring everything to one side, and we're going to get a nice quadratic equation. So plus 2x minus 2x cancel out. We subtract 35 from both sides. Actually, we're going to do it later. We have x and x, so we have 2x. So we have x squared plus 2x. We have minus 4 plus 4 minus 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 plus 9 is 11. But we are unhappy, right? Why we are unhappy? We don't see a 0. So we subtract 35 and we get x squared plus 2x minus 44 equals 0. Sorry, 24 equals 0. It's a nice quadratic equation. We can factor 2 numbers multiply to 24 combined to 2. 6 and 2? No. 6 and 4. 8 and 3 not going to give us 2. So 6 and 4. The signs? Positive 6 and 4 minus. So we have x plus 6, 0, x minus 4, 0, x is negative 6, x is positive 4. And we see any side, because of the negative, do we have any problem? For example, let's take this side. X plus 4, if x is negative 6, then we get our side negative. Can you have a negative side? So we wasted our time. So this is x, and then you solve for each side. side 1, side 2, side 3, side 4. So we have x squared minus 2x, and then we have 2x minus 2, x plus 4, x plus 9. Let me do the easy one. X plus 9, our side is 4. So 4 plus 9 gives us 13. Here we have 4 plus 4, 8. And then you do the rest. That's how you have the 4 sides. So with this, we are done with chapter 6. Make sure you start doing your homework on chapter 6 because we have 7 sections to do. And by next Tuesday, you have 7 homework to do and I don't know how many quizzes. So have a good weekend, everyone. I graded only 2 pages for everyone, and I still have 2 pages for everyone. I don't have them with me.
I'm curious how many absences I had.
How many absent? Let me tell you.